Shadow Warrior 3 has been released after a couple of delays, and man, it looks incredible. The gameplay looks fun, the art style seems like it's taken a few notes from Serious Sam 2, and I'm looking forward to eventually playing it. For almost the past decade, we've witnessed a resurgence of single-player focused arena FPS games, and it's been interesting to see how this little genre has evolved. Although Serious Sam 3 came out beforehand, I think the 2013 reboot of Shadow Warrior brought this type of shooter back to life. Shadow Warrior is a good game, but it ultimately laid the foundation down for better games to follow. Shadow Warrior featured a ground dash mechanic, which didn't even show up in Doom 2016, and we had to wait until Doom Eternal to see it in that franchise. The developers took the katana, a weapon that was only a novelty back in the build engine version of Shadow Warrior, and made it a fundamental part of the combat. This is pretty similar to how id Software reinvented the chainsaw's use, and in Doom Eternal specifically, made it a core mechanic. The levels in Shadow Warrior had actual secrets you can find to obtain extra items, which added to the throwback feel of the game, even though I do think that the campaign was too long for its own good. Shadow Warrior 2013 was a step in the right direction for the genre, and got pretty good reviews at the time, but Doom 2016 would come a few years later and refine the arena combat. Doom 2016 feels like a AAA experience, with that good old Bethesda backing. And while Shadow Warrior wasn't rushed or anything, you could tell that the same level of polish wasn't there. Still, Shadow Warrior is a really fun game, and Doom 2016 missed some of the key features like dashing, as I've said. Both of these games have more in common with Serious Sam and Quake in terms of gameplay rather than their respective predecessors, but that's all good at the end of the day because the combat loop is solid. Doom 2016 came out, was a huge success, and when Shadow Warrior 2 dropped the same year, the game didn't get the same appreciation. Shadow Warrior 2 didn't refine the arena combat from the first game, but instead went for a looter shooter Borderlands style which didn't click for a lot of people. I personally enjoyed it for what it was, but they deviated rather than innovated. I get that Flying Wild Hog probably didn't want to do the same thing again, and I also understand that some people really love Shadow Warrior 2, which is great. Doom Eternal, on the other hand, was directly inspired by Shadow Warrior 2013, and then Shadow Warrior 3 was inspired by Doom Eternal after that was released. I kinda love how these two franchises are mutually taking elements from each other's games to make them better. I'm looking forward to the next Doom game after Shadow Warrior 3 because of this. Speaking of arena FPS games, Serious Sam 4 came out within this time as well, and while I haven't gotten a chance to play it, it looks like another Serious Sam game. With that franchise, you kinda know what you're getting into with every installment, and once you play a couple of games, you've kinda played them all. I do appreciate that the indie game scene is making proper retro-inspired shooters with Dusk, Ion Fury, and Medieval. While these new arena games are fun, Shadow Warrior and Doom Eternal are both great games, the levels and monster placement in both aren't inherently set up like a true 90s shooter, so I'm glad that games like Dusk exist. The future of this old school shooter revival is looking bright, and whether it's arena style or retro level design, I'm down for it all.